What's going on, beautiful people? We are back again with another Mental Max Out podcast. And it's your boy, as always, Akeem Robinson. And I'm telling you, you're going to love this one today. You are going to feel it. And sitting across from me is Amy G. What do you got for them?
What's up, MMO fam? We are back and better because we just keep on getting better.
Come on now.
So
Come on.
come on. So today I want to talk about different forms of love. So we're thinking about doing a little series called
Ooh.
Different Forms of Love, but just for today, we're talking about showing up and how that is the first form of love. So in my yoga class, that's the first thing I say is show up exactly as you are. It doesn't matter what that looks like. I think showing up is a crucial part in everything. 80% of success is showing up. And that is a quote by the good Woody Allen. And so today we just want to talk about how showing up, it doesn't have to be perfect. Little changes add up to big changes. And when you don't feel it, show up anyway.
And I think that's so crucial. And Amy G, when you talk about showing up is the first form of love, we're so excited for this little series right here, y'all, because I'm telling you, there's so many forms that love happens that we don't know. And if you're like me, when I was younger, and even sometimes today, when I feel like I'm kind of falling into ruts and I'm kind of falling into making mistakes that I'm not getting that love that I deserve, or I'm not getting my rewards, or like what's going on and why this keep happening to me. So we're super excited because we want you to keep coming back for these series because love is in so many forms and it's happening all around us. And when you talk about showing up, I failed at that because I failed to realize sometimes when we talk about showing up, it's just showing up for yourself. If you can answer that bell of sometimes you don't feel like it, you don't want to, but if you can just find a way to get out the bed, find a way to make it to something that you have to do, that's the first form of love that you can pour back into yourself. And I missed that because I was not doing that so much. I was not pouring that into myself. So that's the first form of love.
It doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay to have these feelings, but showing up anyway is the win. Like I said, that's 80% of success is just showing up. And when you're in it and you show up, things could change and start to alter. And then it feels a little bit lighter and, you start to notice different things. But, showing up for yourself is huge.
As you're listening out there and we're talking about showing up, understand that it doesn't have to be perfect. I think sometimes that we have these goals, we have these things that we want to do, and sometimes we tell ourselves we're not ready, or the goal isn't right, or the timing isn't right because everything isn't lined up yet. My finances aren't lined up yet. This isn't the right time yet. And we put so many walls up in front of us that we feel trapped. Then because of that, we just don't make a move. And sometimes,
Mhm.
like we're talking about just showing up, sometimes it's just answering that call. It's just going for it. It's just making that commitment and knowing that as you're taking the steps, it will work out. As you're going forward, it's going to happen because the longer you wait for it to all be perfect and it to all line up, it's not going to happen. I remember Allison and I were driving one day, and she, we always ask each other, "What are you thinking? What are you thinking?" And this particular day, she was like, "What are you thinking?" And I was like, I'm so thankful for you because I said, if it was up to me, we wouldn't be married. And not because she's not a great person. I think she's a great person, but in my mind, I wasn't ready. In my mind, the money wasn't exactly what I thought it would be. And I said, and if we weren't married, then we wouldn't have had Serena. And so truly, if I would have waited on my own to make it work, it wouldn't have fit. And so sometimes when you show up, it's just making sure you can just go and the rest will kind of figure itself out. The rest will fall into place. And I know that sounds like a make-believe thing or a hocus pocus kind of thing, but no, we truly mean that. It will work itself out if you're putting yourself in the right situation to have those opportunities.
So good. And Akeem, you were just talking about showing up emotionally in that sense and mentally in that sense. And I'm another way to show up is like physically. I mean, like you had to show up to the altar to
Come on.
get married, but I'm saying physically is showing up, for example, to a class or to a job interview that you're super nervous about, or I don't know what you guys are going through, but you'll surprise yourself that when you let go and just simply show up, you gain more confidence in the fact that there's more in you than you think. And sometimes our mind is going to try to tell us 40 different things, and who you are at your core is going to tell you otherwise when you show up. So just making that choice to be obedient and listen to that little tiny gut feeling that's telling you, okay, I'm just going to go for it.
Oh my goodness. I love how you said it's like being obedient, because just recently I passed my defense for my dissertation. One step closer, y'all. 4 years in the making. But tune in for that
Yes,
later.
sir.
Come on now. No, but it's true, because like showing up sometimes is just emotionally. Like I was in a place where I have this big defense coming up, and the thoughts started coming in, the doubt, the nervousness, the fear started coming in. I remember me and you had a discussion, and then I had a discussion with one of my longtime friends, and everybody that I talked to was like, "Oh, dude, you know this stuff. Oh man, this is super cool." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And they saw it in me, and it's something I was nervous about, something that I was kind of like, I spent 4 years doing this, but even still I'm nervous. And then when I presented it, my board was like, we can't wait for this to come out, we can't wait for you to continue to show this. And when we talk about it's just being obedient, it's just taking that step and that gut feeling that Amy G talked about, because again, it's going to seem crazy to a lot of people, it's going to seem weird to a lot of people, it's not going to make sense to even you sometimes, but it's just showing up, it's just knowing that, yeah, you're going to have that feeling of self-doubt. Yeah, you're going to have that gut feeling of like, oh, this is making me nervous. But there's people that depend on you to show up too. And the first person that depends on you to show up is yourself.
As we're talking about this is such a crucial topic in my life, because as I looking back at, going to New Mexico State, playing D1 soccer, showing up in my injuries, showing up I got the opportunity to get a master's degree, showing up in those sense. It's like sometimes I would have never planned it, but because those opportunities arose and I said yes, and I just had faith that it was going to work out. Now I have my master's degree. I went through 3 injuries. I wouldn't have ever planned that for myself. That wasn't in the plan, but because I showed up, I kept surprising myself, and my experience in myself just continued to grow. And I think that's just what it comes down to, is choosing yourself every single time, and just knowing that I'm gonna choose to believe I can get through this. I'm gonna choose to believe me by showing up is the 80% of success. You just choose to believe in yourself, and the rest will come up.
Oh my goodness. When we're talking about showing up, it's like she said, showing up to believe in yourself. And so you might be thinking to yourself, okay, that sounds cool, but how do I do that? The first form that you can do that is just little changes add up to big changes. The little things add up to be the big things. So being in sports performance, I hear this all the time of people like, oh, I want to lose weight. Oh, I want to get in shape. Oh, I want to do this. And they always like, how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you do it? And that's the first form. Little changes add up to big changes, and just choosing yourself. And so I tell people all the time, if you're trying to lose weight, how much juice do you drink? How much soda do you drink? And by just cutting out that or reducing that by half is you choosing yourself and you making a little change. And that's showing up for yourself. That's showing up for yourself emotionally. That's showing up for yourself physically. That's making a little change to be a big change in your life. And that's choosing yourself. I think when people think about powerful words like love and showing up for yourself, they think we're going to tell them, well, if you just drop everything, you quit your jobs, you do what you got to do, you're going to make all. No, we're saying just make these little small changes in your life. Just
Yeah, and
putting yourself up there. Go ahead.
so I work from home, and yes, it's such a blessing and it's amazing. But I started to get really comfortable, and I started to notice that, oh, it's no longer working for me, and I wanted to make some little changes. So I started, going on little walks and getting fresh air and working from a coffee shop. And those little changes have tremendously made big changes, because I've seen my emotional health get better, and I've become more social. And so it's just like those little adjustments will truly propel you forward. They don't have to be some grand thing. Like I even started thinking to myself when, oh man, maybe working from home isn't for me, like I'm at home all the time, I'm so social. But no, it's just like once I made those little adjustments and putting myself out there and not staying in that comfort bubble, I've noticed, okay, it's my responsibility to just show up. in different ways.
Yes, and I remember because I was getting up at 4 in the morning one time when I was at college as a strength coach, and it was so early, and I was so frustrated that I had to get up so early. But it was like I had to show up. I had to
Mm-hmm.
show up because it was like this will propel me to something different. And I remember when I first started coaching, I was like, I gotta get hype. I gotta get myself going. I used to listen to rap music all the time. I used to listen to it all the time, and I was just like, oh man, I had to get myself up and going. But I noticed that when I was doing that, I was coming in to work kind of like, oh, like I was kind of coming in edgy. I was coming in fired up, but it was a little too much fired up. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was even going home listening to rap music, and I was bringing that home. And the little change that I had to make was I was like, you know what? The kids aren't even ready yet. The people I'm going to be training aren't even ready yet. So I need to listen to a whole different kind of music. So I started changing the music I was listening to on the way to work. And then I changed the music I was listening to on the way home from work to mellow me out and to get me ready. And so when we're talking about little changes and to allow that to show up for you, it can be what you're listening to, who you're surrounding yourself with, what you're ingesting in your body. Again, these little changes allow you to show up for yourself. As Amy G said, it can be going for a walk. 5 minute walk, even if you're within the office. What's a 5 minute walk of a different way that you usually take, a different path within the office, and just kind of reflecting. I love journaling as well because it allows me to think back on where was I thinking at this point last month? Where was I thinking on this point last year? And it allows me to reflect on my growth. So when we're talking about little changes, these are the changes that allow you to show up for yourself.
Psalm 34:19 says, "A righteous person may have many troubles, but the Lord delivers him from them all." And if we keep showing up and remain faithful, because our Heavenly Father, He never promised that this life is going to be without problems. I just know that when we're going through hard seasons, it feels like it's forever, but it's not. That's what gives me hope, is that like there's always a reward on the other side. It's these moments of tribulation and pain, and like as long as you show up, I feel like you will get to that reward. And I feel like that type of thinking has, got Akeem to where he is today. That type of thinking has gotten me to where I am today. I'll just keep showing up because I know there's something better on the other side.
Yes, yes. And again, here's the thing about when you say something as powerful as showing up, you're probably not always going to feel it. You're probably not always going to want to do it. And again, when we're talking about showing up, please hear us and not just think it's something where like, we're doing it. It's easy. You got it. No, like we're acknowledging the fact that yeah, sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it's uncertain. Sometimes you're just like, how is this going to happen? How am I going to make this fit? And so one of the points again we want to stress to you is when in order to love yourself and understanding that it comes in a different form is you might not always feel it, but one of the ways you can show love to yourself is a form of self-care. I remember I was a big against self-care. I was huge against it. And I had to start changing my mind to understand what self care is. So, for example, for you listening out there, do you like going to the gym? That's self care. Do you like watching movies? That's self care. Understanding certain things that you like to do in order to get you to back to 100% is a form of self care. One of the things that I just recently started doing is, and Allison was pumping me up. I remember before our wedding, she was like, "You want to get a facial?" And I was like, "I'm a guy. I'm not gonna get no facial." I was like, I'm not doing that. And she was like, you might like it. And I was like, okay. And then I did the facial and I was like, babe, pencil me in for a facial for the rest of my life. I was like, I'm gonna save up all my pennies and I'm gonna put them in the piggy bank and we're gonna have me another facial because that was the best experience of my life. And just recently I got another one and the person that I got the facial from, she was like, "Hey, have you gotten a facial since you seen me?" And I was like, "Yes, but they're not as good as you." And I was giving her descriptions why they're not as good, and I like literally I was so excited for it because I knew once I was leaving that place, I was going to be a better husband. I was going to be a better father because I allowed myself to pour back into me. And some
Yes,
of the
you're
things that
filling up your cup.
yes, and so when we're talking about loving yourself, it's making sure you can fill back up your cup. And for some of you guys out there, some of you guys might be thinking to yourself, "Well, I'm a parent. I got to make sure everybody's good." Yes, you do, but you have to be good first. Or you might be
Mhm.
thinking to yourself, "In my relationship, I got to make sure they're good." Yes, you do, but you have to make sure you're good first. Like you have to make sure you're okay first. And then you can pour into people. Then you can know you have a full tank of gas to make it to your destination because you filled your tank up. We're one of the few people out there that think to ourselves, we can just go, 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 go and never fill our tank up. But if we talk about our cars like that, we'll laugh. We're like, of course our cars need gas. We're no different. We need fuel too. And so I challenge you out there to think about, what's your self-care fuel? What is your self-care fuel to put you back to a full tank to pour into someone else? And I'm not
Mhm.
meaning like just sitting there binge watching an entire show, like that. I don't mind doing that too. But if that's not helping you be a better version of yourself that you can pour back into other people, then that's particularly not a self-care thing. So what is that thing that can challenge you to start self-caring for yourself?
For me, my self-care stuff is yoga, exercise, like you said, skincare routine, which I'm so proud of you for being
Oh,
open-minded
I'm
to.
a part of the club now, y'all.
Yes, you're part of the club. Going on walks, being in nature, sunshine. These are just some ideas for you guys that you can kind of dabble with and see what, works for you.
And the
Um,
listeners, yeah, and
and
to
even listening to this podcast, you know what I mean? Like this could be a self-care.
come on, man. We see you. We hear you. That was the whole point of creating this podcast. Again, there's so many things out there that you can scroll forever. There's so many things out there that you can just mindlessly just detach yourself from. But every once in a while, it's good to feel heard. It's good to feel validated. And we wanted to create this whole thing because we wanted to be real with you, but not be negative. We wanted to be real with you, but know that it's real out there. And so that's the whole reason. So this could be a moment of that self-care that when you turn us off, hopefully you come back, that you're like, okay, now I know how to have a better conversation with myself. Okay, now I understand where my partner is coming from. Okay, now I'm ready to go into the house and be the best version of myself I can be.
Okay, thank you for the reminder that I have permission to slow down and rest.
Come
Okay.
on.
Thank you for the reminder that I am enough and slowing down doesn't mean that I'm behind. It actually helps me propel forward. And so I feel like these little reminders, we need them. We need them to pause and just make sure that we're on the right path to our success.
When you're talking about showing up, sometimes, guess what? It's real hard. So sometimes another way you can do it is just to use your why.
Mm.
And I hear this all the time from a lot of motivational speakers. They're like, "What's your why?" And they're like screaming, and they're like, "Your why's gotta push you." And everybody's like, and everybody, I guess, turns it off, and they're like, "Yeah." But I kind of am like, "Oh, okay." No, but no, seriously, like, why are you going to work right now?
Hmm.
Why are you continuing to be in that relationship right now? Why are you pouring yourself into that significant other right now? That's what we want you to take away is like when we say, what's your why, and use your why, you really have to dig into the person. You really have to dig into you and the surrounding scenario of saying, I love being a dad because it allows me to continue to pour into someone. It allows me to continue to help raise someone that could be nice to someone. I love being a husband because, man, it shows me gratitude. It shows me patience. It shows me that my style can work with someone, but I'm still working with someone. And how do I love that person and meet them where they are? And that's how I use my why. I try to use my why every day by pouring into these people, by seeing where they are, evaluating where I'm at, and understanding that, okay, if they're my why are they my why? Okay, if this is my why is it my why? Isn't that crazy? Why is it your why?
And making sure that our why is uplifting us and not destroying us, right? For example, my why changed going to the gym. Like I would go to the gym because I want to look good or, oh, I need it's bikini season, whatever. No, now my why has completely flipped and I go because I feel so good after I get a workout in. My mind is right. I do it because I feel healthy and strong. My thoughts are clearer. I have energy. I'm doing it because I want to take care of my knees and make sure that I can be healthy all these years after the surgeries. And I just want to make sure I'm taking care of myself in the best way. So your why could change. Like, do it because you're nurturing yourself and your body is a temple and you want to feel strong, not for surface level purposes. You know what I mean? Because the more that you fuel yourself with love, light, and truth, the more confidence you'll radiate. And you're doing it for the right reasons and not doing it for social media purposes or for the image.
I was fueled with the wrong why. Yes, you can fuel yourself with the wrong why. You might have a car, but if you're putting the wrong kind of fuel in there, it's not going to work. And we're no different. And for me, I remember fueling myself with, I need this money. I need a great job because once I get that, then I can do certain things. But I wasn't giving it a story. I wasn't giving it a true purpose. And it was like, okay, what are you going to do with the money? I didn't have an answer.
You don't give it the right story.
Yeah, you're not. I wasn't giving it the right story. And I just was like, well, I need this title to validate who I am because once I do that, nothing. Oh, I need this money because once I make it to this money, then I'm good. For what? Nothing. So when you're using your why, make sure it's, like she said, uplifting you. Make sure you're giving it a true story to help you. Because if you're just chasing it for the clout, you're chasing it for the recognition, you're chasing it because you think you're owed that and you deserve that, you'll get there, but then nobody's there to celebrate it. You'll get there, but then you'll be miserable. You'll get there, but then you'll spend so much energy and so much time and you'll be regretful and you'll have bitterness. So make sure you're giving it a story that uplifts you. Make sure you're giving it something that can fuel you to get to your next destination. Because I was not doing that. I truly was telling myself, well, all those big time strength coaches are out there because they're with the right people and then they're with those people. And I was like, if they put me in that position, I'm going to do this. And I was like, what am I going to do? I didn't have a story with it. And then when I finally got my chance was at a NAIA, and it literally goes division 1, 2, 3, NAIA. I got my chance. I finally got my chance. But at first I was like, man, NAIA, like, man, like I was supposed to be division 1. I was supposed to be up there. And it was like, I literally felt God being like, hold on. You said you wanted to be a guy. You're now a
Mm-hmm.
guy. And now that you're a guy, you're mad. Now that you're a guy, you're bitter. And I had to change my perspective.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, some people out there right now, it's hard for you to love yourself. It's hard for you to show up for yourself because you're using your why to just validate it. You're using your why because you think that's the end. No, you have to use your why to take you to your next destination, your next stop on your journey.
So good. And similar, I was like, oh, I'm going D1. I'm going to be the superstar, all this stuff. And here I am 3 surgeries later, and I had to change my why. I had to change, my positioning. I had to change my story. And that was what fueled me to become the yoga instructor I am today. And like, that is a part of my story. And I used it to uplift me and to take me higher and to fuel myself with love. And so it's just going back to, your failures that's not the end of your why. This didn't happen, so I'll never be this, and so that's just how it ends. And then you live your life believing that. But no, transform your why and show up for yourself so you can uplift and transform.
And one of the things, and you hear this, but we want you to take this. One of the ways you can show for yourself is just consistency. Just consistency. Amy G said this earlier, but 80%. We just challenge you out there to just say, if that's something that has been on your heart, something that's been on your mind, just give it 80%. Just show up for yourself for 80%. And if you can do that for a week, then can you make it 82% or 85%? If you can do that for another couple of weeks, then can we up it again? Because literally, when we talk about consistency, I think people misunderstand that word and they think consistency is perfect. I think they think consistency is now. I think they think consistency is the finished product. No, consistency is just showing up and doing it repeatedly, doing it on a continual spectrum that you can look yourself in the mirror and you're proud of that person. But I really think somewhere consistency has gotten lost to it has to be finished. It has to
Right.
be done. And that's not it. Like showing up for yourself is, can you be consistent for yourself? Can you pour into yourself? And one of the things that we stress to you too is, and that we got thrown into it, is sometimes you have to choose your hard, because being
Mhm.
consistent is hard. Being consistent is hard. So you have to choose your hard, because you can choose your hard to not be consistent and continue to go in a path that is making you miserable, not showing up, continuing to make you feel not validated. And that's hard on you as well. Or you can choose to be consistent and just make little changes, little self-care moments, little
They
things.
don't have to be perfect.
They don't have to be perfect. And those things could start to pour into you, and you can do it today, and you can do it tomorrow, and you can do it the next day. And then when you look back, you said, holy crap, I've done it 3 days in a row. Holy
Mhm.
crap, I did it 3 out of the 4 days. Holy crap, I did it half of the week. Okay, next week, can we do it half of the week again? That's where the consistency comes in. That's where the progress can now be tracked.
And we're just so happy that you guys joined in today. Showing up is the first form of love. And we just want to remind you that showing up for yourself first. We know you're showing up in all different types of areas, being an amazing mom, being an amazing wife, being a great husband, being a great friend, being a great daughter, being a great brother. We know you're showing up in all those areas, but in order to show up your best self in those areas, you need to show up for yourself first. So we just thank you so much for tuning in today, and we're grateful for you guys. We want you to come back and want you to come back to see what the next form of love is. So thank
Yes.
you so much for tuning in.
And I'm telling you, we're just going to continue to pour into you guys, because love comes in different forms.
And at the end of the day, you guys, we don't want you to think like us.
We just want you to think differently.